All right, joining me once again here on the Matthew Filipowicz Show is Dahr Jamail. Dahr is the author of several books, including The Mass Destruction of Iraq. He is a staff reporter at TruthOut, all of which you can find at dahrjamail.net. You can also find him on Twitter at Dahr Jamail. Dahr, thank you so much for being on the show again.
Thanks. Good to be with you again.
All right, so Dahr, you have been covering domestic military war games for a long, long time. And this month at TruthOut, you published a really disturbing report on trainings that are happening in the state of Washington. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, what I came across was a couple of internal documents within the Navy that basically outline in detail plans that they have set up starting roughly 10 days ago and going on for 2 years. They would basically be simulated combat exercises where teams of Navy SEALs carrying what they call simulated weapons would be launching onto beaches across Washington state, including over 20 state parks, using mini subs and other types of landing crafts across areas that actually include in total 68 beach and state park areas around the entire Puget Sound, the Strait of Juan de Fuca, as well as the West Coast on the Pacific. And they're going to start doing so without most of the relevant government agencies, both local, state, and federal, without any foreknowledge of this and without any public oversight or public notification. So people could literally be at a state park beach someplace in Washington state anytime, day or night, over the next 2 years, and a team of Navy SEALs carrying weapons, what look exactly like real weapons, could be storming onto the beach and start carrying out war games right then and there. And that's the basics of the story. And since we published these documents, it's caused quite the storm up throughout the Pacific Northwest. Government officials have been extremely upset. Even the state governor's office has been very upset that they weren't notified in advance. And people are very, very upset about this, needless to say.
Yeah, I mean, reading the article, what's so wild about it is, again, that, like, these are in state parks, and like you got these documents that show these maps of where these things theoretically can take place, and some of them are like they're in towns. They're like you can literally have like Navy SEALs swimming by people's houseboats and stuff like that. Talk about just some of go into a little detail about where some of these actual trainings are planned to take place according to these documents.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's one of the more disconcerting parts about it, is that a lot of the areas that they chose to do these war games, they intentionally chose because they included residential areas and private land, so that they could carry out what they call realistic military training in these areas, even a lot of them within city limits. A lot of them including Navy SEAL teams possibly swimming through harbors where people are literally living on their boats, in addition to on tribal land, state land, and federal lands, and in particularly within private areas where people could literally look out their window at night and see a team of armed SEALs roaming through their alleyways. And they did so because the Navy planned this particularly in this way because they wanted to start, I think, desensitizing the public to this type of war exercise, as well as training their own men and women, as the case may be, to start getting ready to, this is how you deal with civilians, and you have to treat them like you don't know if they're going to be against you or for you. And so it's literally, and that's why I chose the title of the piece I did, which is The Navy Uses U.S. Citizens as Pawns in Domestic War Games. Unbeknownst to the citizens, that's exactly what they're being used as pawns, so that they can train these soldiers that when they go into areas where there are civilians mixed in with quote-unquote potential combatants, that they can start training their soldiers in this way.
And again, what's so wild about this is it's not that the Navy doesn't have places to train. It's not like any of the armed forces are lacking areas where they actually do training. They have, countless miles of land that has similar terrain that they can do anything they really can set up, but they are deliberately choosing to do this in a place with civilization and with people, and again, not telling people about it. That is the just so mind-blowing about it, that they're circumventing the pretty much every government agency. Let's dig into that a bit, about how specifically the Navy is overriding or just completely pretending they don't even exist, all these local government agencies.
Well, that's right. And not telling people, again, is a very, very important part of the story. And in fact, I also managed to obtain a bunch of internal Navy emails about the setting up of these exercises, as well as the links that the Navy was going to specifically hide this information from the public. So not only were they not following the National Environment Policy Act, NEPA, which by federal law requires them to have public notification periods, public comment periods, and all of this for any exercise they're going to do that's going to have any impact on the public, whether it's flying jets over or nearby a town to an exercise such as this. And the emails, for example, they labeled them attorney-client privilege. And then these files that I published that go in, the maps, the detailed explanations of how, where, why, and when they're going to carry out these exercises, they labeled those for official use only. So while neither of those two classifications means that these are classified documents, by labeling them such and deliberately, it's a move that exempts both the emails and the documents that I publish from a Freedom of Information Act. So someone could file a FOIA for the Navy, hey, I want to know what are your upcoming exercises, please furnish X, Y, and Z, and they would not have to provide this information because they made up these labels and said, well, if we label them this, then we don't even have to provide it in a FOIA. So clearly they're going and deliberately going down a path of secrecy from the public, of what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, what's it going to entail, and how is it going to impact the public. And this is really outrageous because the Pacific Northwest, for those that don't know, this is really one of the, if not the biggest, it's one of the biggest staging areas for the Navy in the entire country because of the way the geography is up here and the way their ports are and where they harbor their boats, etc. This is, there's a massive Navy presence up in this region. And so, and they're expanding it because they're looking forward to the future. If you look at the Quadrennial Defense Review Report, which is the annual Pentagon report that talks about, what the Navy is or what the military's main objectives are over the next year, then, you're looking at possible war gaming for preparation for war with Russia and China. And so kind of like, alluding to one of the things that you just spoke of, maybe this is in preparation for that because there are coastlines in both Russia and China that resemble the Pacific Northwest. And so maybe that's part of also what's behind some of these exercises.